Hi, folks. Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. Coming up in the at the bottom of the hour, Dr. David Samadi will join us. Lots of interesting health issues to talk about today. You're not going to want to miss that. Most of them, of course, I always relate them to me because I'm a hypochondriac. Catholic League. Hello, Bill.
How you doing there, Steve?
Good. Great to see you. Great to talk to you. Okay, so it was revealed today that Pope Francis plans to visit the United States in 2015, and he will be in Philadelphia, among other things, during the Catholic Church's World Meeting of Families. This is exciting because, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it Pope Benedict in 2008, the last pope to visit?
That's right, and they have a great Archbishop there, Charles Chaput, and I think it's great for the United States and good for the city of brotherly love.
Yeah, and of course, Pope Benedict also visited with President George W. Bush. He spoke at the United Nations General Assembly. He gave an open mass at Yankee Stadium and other settings. What might we, it's early, but what might we expect in addition to the Philadelphia visit from the Pope? Would he be expected to maybe address the United Nations, come to New York, et cetera?
Well, I don't know. I think it's a little premature. Sometimes they don't do that. They'll just stay in one city and maybe even try to go to a Midwestern city. The proximity obviously is very tempting that maybe he will address the world leaders. But if he's going to be talking about families, that's going to make a lot of people in our political culture very uneasy.
How so?
Well, our president certainly doesn't agree with that. When he was in the Illinois State Senate, he was a great proponent of infanticide, selective infanticide. A child born as a result of a botched abortion, nobody had any right to attend to that child. So, there's a lot of problems here. Hillary Clinton, who wants to run for president in 2016, said that abortion is sad and a tragedy. She's never explained why it's sad or a tragedy.
Well, okay, let's talk about Obama for a second, and I'm glad you brought that up because Barack Obama, well before 2015, in fact, a couple of months from now, in March, is going to meet with the Pope. The media, I could play soundbite after soundbite where the leftist media or the mainstream media, whatever you want to call it, it's one and the same, they're just so excited, and they kept saying, oh, they have so much in common. Oh, they're talking about the income inequality, quote unquote, but on every level, on every other issue, and probably on that issue, they're so different. There's nothing similar about Obama and the Pope at all.
That's right. I mean, there's no question Obama knows a great deal about inequality, having generated more of it than any president in American history. So he's a master at it. But no, they're not going to talk about abortion. They're not going to talk about this bizarre idea of two men getting married. They're not going to talk about that. Now, in terms of income inequality, the Pope released a statement just this week, all the rich people meeting over in Europe, and he said, listen, the way to help people, you people have done such a noble enterprise and working so hard and making money, you've got to also work with the poor. He didn't say the best way to help the poor is to tax the rich more or to have more welfare programs. He's simply saying that we have to lift the poor up. In other words, Pope Francis has more in common with Larry Summers, who also this week chided his former boss, President Obama, by saying that the politics and rhetoric of envy is not very helpful. We should be concerned more about growth. Otherwise, you're going to talk about inequality and you're going to deliver stagnation. So I think that there's a split here in terms of the means by which you help the poor.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. We're talking to Bill Donohue here on the Steve Malzberg Show. And there was the Right to Life March in Washington in the bitter cold, braving the elements, hundreds of thousands of people. The networks gave it such little coverage. I know it's almost rhetorical in nature, us talking about this and me asking you about it, but the networks, according to our friends at the Media Research Center, covered a baby panda 6 times more than the March for Life. And you know what? I guess if it was any other way, we'd be shocked.
Well, I do have a little bit of good news. I did put out a statement yesterday that there was a 1,351-word article on the front page. You jumped into page A16 about a vice principal in Seattle, a Catholic school, who thinks he married another man. In any event, they got rid of him because he violated his contract with the Catholic employer with the school. Some students are rallying to his cause. Okay, fine. That merits 4 pictures, 1 in color, 1 was 9x6. If you get to page A17, the opposite from the jump, you see a relatively small picture of the Right to Life, and there's no attendant story to it. I put out a statement. I put out the email of the public editor, Margaret Sullivan, saying that this kind of disparity showed a bias. I have to say this much. She was good. Margaret Sullivan, the public editor, came out with a statement, and she chided the New York Times and said, in fact, there should have been a story about the March for Life. Good
for you. That's good to know. And, you know, there's a poll recently, a Marist poll the other day, that talked about whether it's on, that 60-something% think abortion's morally wrong, that overwhelmingly people favor parental notification, favor a 24-hour waiting period, favor the mandatory viewing of a sonogram. So we're moving, the country's moving in the right direction. The media will have you think you're out of your mind if you believe in that stuff, but the public does.
Well, you're absolutely right about that, Steve. Let me throw in 2 more figures. 84% of Americans are opposed to third trimester abortions. Now, that's what that Wendy Davis is pushing for down in Texas, okay? We don't want something like that. But the best news of all, Steve, millennials, the young kids, are overwhelmingly in favor of life. They're choosing life over death. They are more pro-life than any other demographic group in our society. You know, I don't think we're winning on the war dealing with marriage, but we are certainly winning on the war dealing with abortion. And that, I think, is something that we can be very happy about.
We only have a minute left, Bill. It doesn't do it justice, but Governor Andrew Cuomo, we've talked about it on this show, has come out and basically said that conservatives have no place in New York. We had, various people have said that they're going to leave New York. What do you say to Governor Cuomo?
You know, this is incredibly demagogic and divisive. I would be objecting to a conservative who said, if the liberals don't agree with us, then you ought to get out of our state. That's just simply divisive. You know, now we have the mayor of New York, de Blasio, said he stands by Cuomo 100%. To say that people ought to leave the state, that you don't belong here, that you're not authentic New Yorkers. Look, I was born in Manhattan. I was raised in New York City and Long Island. I went away for a while in the Air Force and as a professor in Pittsburgh, came back home. I am more a New Yorker than Wilhelm, which is what de Blasio's real name is. He's had 2 name changes before this one. I don't need him or the governor, the other great Catholic, I can't forget about Andrew Cuomo, who's always lecturing us about abortion, to tell me that I don't belong here. They belong here. They have a right to be here, but we have a right to disagree, too.
Bill Donohue, keep the passion. I love you. Always great to talk to you, and thanks for coming.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Bill Donohue, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, Dr. David Samadi, Chairman of Urology and Chief of Robotic Surgery at Lenox Hill Hospital. Get ready for Health Talk on the Steve Ballsberg Show, Newsmax TV, and radio.